Whatever failures I have known. Chapter 20. Chapter 21. The God Ask. Section 5. It's go time. Step out of the stands, down on the track, and run the race that God is calling you to. Chapter 22. Entering the zone. The office door is shut, the coffee is poured, Chris is staring at the phone. He is planned and prayed up, but is paralyzed with fear. His staring now seems to be redirected out the window somewhere. His stomach begins to churn. He rearranges his desk. His coffee is now cold. He should go exercise. Yes. Why not start today, he reasons. He puts on his jogging shoes and heads for the door. His wife sees him and is totally confused. She thought he was spending the morning making calls. Maybe you can relate. It's that first afternoon when you're going into your office, locking the door, and determining not to come out until you have at least 8 appointments lined up. You've sent a newsletter out, a batch of pre-call emails, and you are finally ready to make that first set of phone calls to set up appointments. But you are really nervous and begin to do every other task on your to-do list except the most important: make calls. This is where the battle begins. This is go time. You and I can be the most prayed up and planned up people anywhere, but now is the real test. Will we face the giants in our mind, walk toward our fears, and reject passivity and procrastination? Every time we pick up that phone to make a call, every time we knock on that door for a support appointment, every time we look deep into someone's eyes and ask the golden question, we are choosing to run toward the battle. As we get to the practical how-tos of support raising, let's commit now on the front end to be men and women who are prayerful and fully dependent upon God, personal and caring deeply about each life we intersect with, and finally, persistent, clinging to a can-do, never-give-up attitude. You ready? I know how you secure the appointment is going to be somewhat generational. Younger support raisers may contact their peers for appointments via texting or social media. Some may use email. For many of you, you will be calling, especially if the person is significantly older than you. Seek to discover and utilize the most effective way to connect with your potential supporters in order to set up an appointment. That is the determining factor as to the means of communication you choose, not simply because it is quickest or easiest or less scary. Heart and mind preparation. Weak ink is better than a strong memory. The phone is not your enemy. It can be your friend if you let it. Pray before you begin. Ask God to give you enthusiasm, clarity, and courage. Ask Him to go before you, that people would answer their phones, and that they would be receptive to you and your request to meet with them in person. Have your phone script in front of you. You may have been a smooth telemarketing rep, but don't rely on your eloquence, especially during those first 20 to 30 conversations, as you perfect exactly what you want to say. How you go about handling that 1 to 5 minute phone call can make you or break you in your support raising success. Work hard at making it a wonderful experience for every person. You're calling dozens of people during each session. Choose a reliable method to record the information you're gathering during each call. During my call, I may discover we can't meet for lunch because my friend is taking his 12-year-old son to his baseball playoff game. Or maybe we can't do breakfast because he's taking his wife away for a 20th wedding anniversary weekend. If so, when we finally do sit down and have a meal and support appointment together, the first thing I better not ask him is, "Say, Joe, did you tell me you had a family?" No. You ask how Bobby did in the playoff game. Did his wife enjoy the stay at the bed and breakfast he had chosen? You are trying to build a relationship with this person. Recording, storing, and reviewing that information before each appointment helps you establish strong rapport. The support raising zone. Finding the right place to make your calls is essential. Find an office, a room, a quiet place where you can close the door and have uninterrupted stretches of time. I like to take 2 to 3 hour chunks to focus exclusively on calling. I need absolute focus. Getting started is half the battle. Once I make that first call, once I get that first appointment, I get in the zone. Nothing can stop me. I am a man on a mission from God. I will not stop until I have at least those 8 appointments I committed to line up. Yes, I was a little nervous and tentative when I started calling, but now there's no place I'd rather be than right here, lining up face-to-face appointments. Discerning the right times to call is critical. I'm not afraid to call someone at their home, cell, office, any phone that I'm able to get their number. I want to be sensitive and wise, but at the same time, I refuse to let paranoia tapes play in the back of my mind, whispering, "You'll be bothering them," or "They're screening your calls." I do try to use discernment as to when I call. To contact a middle-aged or older person before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. might be unwise. I usually call married couples with kids the earliest, then couples with no kids, and save the singles for the latest calls. When calling a prospective supporter at their place of work, I usually try to do so between 9 to 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. Friday mornings are a great time to contact them to get on their calendar for the next week. Locking in appointments. I like to have my schedule right in front of me so I will know exactly what slots I have open. Even if I have no appointments lined up, I don't say, "My whole week is clear, I'm free anytime. When can you meet?" Their first thought will be, "No appointment at all? What a loser." A better approach would be to suggest a couple of specific times to meet, but express flexibility. I have broken my day into 6 possible appointments. Breakfast. This can be for meeting people before work. If you treat them and it's near where they're employed, it's usually a done deal. Mid-morning, a great time to meet pastors, executives, business owners, homemakers. Many of them have enough flexibility to meet for 20 to 45 minutes at their office or home. Lunch. Usually reserved for workers who have enough time and flexibility to go out for a meal, but get them back to their work on time. Mid-afternoon, same as the mid-morning suggestions. Dinner. Hang on to these slots for singles or couples you want to meet and have a more relaxed time with. Evening. Meeting an old friend or younger acquaintance at 8:30 p.m. for coffee to catch up and share about your ministry is a great time and place to have a support appointment. And of course, weekends can be a great time to plan appointments, as people have a lot more flexibility with their schedules. Determine where to meet. Before you make your phone call, think carefully where would be the best place to connect with this person. Ask yourself questions like, how well do I know them? Where would they feel most comfortable meeting? Do I want to try to meet with both husband and wife? How much time do I anticipate them being willing to give me? What is the age difference between this person and myself? These factors need to be considered as you suggest a place to meet. Here are 3 possible locations. Home. I hate to invite myself over to someone's house for an appointment, much less a meal. I do, however, invite people over to our house to share about the ministry and partnering opportunities. Meeting at one or the other's home is usually reserved for people you know fairly well. A home visit usually is a little more flexible too, and can last at least an hour, but should never surpass 2. Office. Most business owners, executives, or managers have enough freedom in their schedules to allow you to stop into their place of work for at least a 20 to 30-minute appointment. Be punctual and very respectful of their time limitations, though, rarely staying more than 45 minutes. Restaurant or coffee shop. This is for someone willing to take the time away from home or office to meet. These are people who are comfortable enough with you to meet you in a more social setting than their office. Always pay for the bill so as not to add to the perception we're nothing more than beggars looking for handouts. If you are married, or if the person you're meeting with is married, be careful with opposite gender appointments. Don't meet one-on-one behind closed doors or eat out together at a restaurant, not as much because of any temptation, but to guard against someone's accusation of impropriety. Amen. What to say on the call. Don't embarrass yourself and risk losing the appointment by not being prepared for the call. Have a script in front of you. Here are the guidelines. Build rapport. Is Mr. Smith there? Mr. Smith, this is Steve Shadrack. How are you doing? Have you got a minute to talk? I have enjoyed getting to know your son and daughter at the youth group meetings. They're great kids. I know you must be proud of them. Scheduling the appointment. Mr. Smith, I sent you a letter last week about our ministry. I'm wondering if you had a chance to read it. Did it make sense? As I was thinking and praying about who I would love to sit down with and share a bit about our ministry vision and financial goals, you definitely came to mind. I'm going to be downtown later this week on Thursday and Friday. Would there be a 20 to 30-minute slot I could squeeze into your schedule somewhere in your mid-morning or mid-afternoon one of those days? I could drop by your office. Confirmation of time and place. 9:30 a.m. Thursday. Sounds great. You're in the Holter building, right? Suite 206? Got it. Excellent. I know just where it is. I'll be knocking on your door a minute or two before 9:30 Thursday morning at your office. Thanks so much. See you then. Wisdom and attitude. Don't say too much about money, or they will try to answer you right there on the phone. Don't say too little about money so as to deceive them. Remember two key phrases to strike that balance: ministry vision and financial goals. To me, this is just enough to let them know we are going to discuss money and giving, but not say so much about it so as to frighten them off before we ever get together. Notice I don't ask them if they would like to meet. Have confidence and assume they would like to meet and hear about your ministry vision. Simply ask which day and time could work for them. Your attitude is contagious. They can hear it in your voice and attitude whether or not you believe you are going to get the appointment. If we bring a downcast, discouraged, or defeated demeanor to that call, we may come across as a beggar with our hand out expecting to be rejected. No wonder we don't get appointments. Instead, smile during your call. Laugh if appropriate. Give them a taste of the vision and passion and joy in the Lord and your work you possess. Let them sense you are fired up to pass this excitement on to them during your appointment. Maybe you never even met the person you're conversing with on the call. Why not start right then enjoying them and beginning to build a friendship? The actual appointment becomes simply a continuation of two people who have really connected. Note, here is an excellent alternative phone script the navigators teach their staff to use. My first ministry assignment is to put together a team of friends who will partner with me through their prayers and financial support. As I thought about who I'd like to have on my team, I naturally thought of you. Is there a time I could come by and visit you for 45 minutes to an hour in the next week or so I can fill you in on all the details? I like it. Start with friends and family. Before you start firing real bullets, take some practice rounds. Grab your two best friends, two of your ministry co-workers, and two of your parents' good friends that watched you grow up. Ask them to role play with you. Make them promise they will be brutally honest with you as you call them up and practice going through this initial phone call to secure an appointment. Listen to their suggestions, revise your script, practice it again and again and a few more times. After your first full day of real calls, start the role play practice sessions again in order to do further refinement and confidence building. The first appointments you seek to make should not be with strangers. They should not be with the ultra-busy millionaire who has 3 layers of secretaries to get to him. Start with the people who know you and love you, but take every call seriously. Do it exactly like you would with anyone. Don't skip any of the steps. These initial calls will allow you to perfect your approach. They will give you tracks to run on when you start to make the tougher calls down the road. In approaching family members for support, use wisdom. If you sense it might damage your relationship with them or hurt your chance to share Christ with them, you might hold off for the time being and just pray they would bring the subject up. Occasionally, you will get someone on the phone who absolutely will not meet with you. Maybe they're having a bad week. Maybe they have an aversion to meetings. More than likely, they have never had a face-to-face meeting with a missionary raising support, and there is the fear of the unknown. If, after several attempts, they will not agree to meet with you, kindly inquire if they would mind you telling them about your ministry right there on the phone. Turn a potentially negative experience into a positive one. Take 5 minutes to share your vision and financial goals. Ask them if it makes sense and if they have any questions. Ask them if they would be open to partnering with you by coming onto your monthly support team for $75, $100, or even $150 a month. At some point, zip the lip and let them answer. No telling what God might do. When times get tough. What if your attitude turns sour and you get discouraged during your support raising? How do you shake it off and keep going? Mike, a fully funded staffer with the Mission Mobilization Ministry 7-9, shares some insights. When my wife and I raised support, we were unstoppable at times, and God was bringing everything in at an incredible rate. Other times it felt like we hit a brick wall. Some days every call resulted in an appointment, but then we would have stretches with no meetings, no new support, no returned calls. All our efforts seemed for naught, with nowhere else to go. My wife helped me understand that although these were discouraging and draining times, they were not bad or wrong. They just come with the territory. Mike continued, yes, most days we did just lock ourselves in a room and plow through the work we needed to do. But we discovered just toughing it out during the dry times wasn't always the answer. Sometimes we would go before God and humbly admit our weakness and disappointment. When we opened our hearts to Him, He was always quick to cheer us up through a new gift or simply telling us, my grace is sufficient for you. Trust me that I will get this accomplished. Yeah. We learned to love these hard times because they forced us to crawl up into God's lap, allow Him to see our struggles, then watch in awe as He stepped into the gap and did what we could never do alone. This is good stuff. When it's go time and we have a low motivational level, All we have to do is make the God ask, buckle up, and push ahead. He will honor our decision to rely on faith rather than our feelings. Chapter 23.
All right. So a little more information about the phone calls and some tips on morale. What are your thoughts?
That generic script is really helpful.
Yeah, where was that again?
That was 190 at the bottom, the middle to bottom. Yeah.
What if we haven't given them a residual, imagine their script. Plagiarizing the script.
Oh, that's fine. No big deal. I'm responding to my earlier email, including this other version. Jason, what were you saying?
But I said that generic example was really helpful.
Oh, I thought you started to say something else.
No.
Other thoughts on this chapter? So I'll just start going through and highlighting some things. So we talked about kind of the importance of getting in a zone, right? What are the implications of what he said about that? What might a helpful tip be in relation to that idea? Anybody? Maybe when you're making your appointments, try to set out a chunk of time. So once you kind of get in the zone, you can make that time as productive as possible, as opposed to phone call here, go do something else, make another couple calls, work it into the little cracks with that throughout your day. Again, as opposed to blocking out a time and then you're just in that, you're going to do, let's say, commit that, set aside that hour to, make as many appointments as you can, make the most while you're in the zone, kind of a thing.
Lots of times seem to help you focus. And timing too, stewarding of your time. Because you're not jumping back and forth doing like a task at the house.
Right.
Things like that.
So I think that can be a helpful tip. I don't remember him mentioning this, but if he didn't say it here, maybe I missed it while we were reading, but he also talked about the possibility of if it's someone who you interact with personally, on some kind of weekly basis, an even better method for asking for an appointment than calling them is asking them in person.
Yes.
So you know how he talks about how different people might use different methods to ask for appointments. And I would say the best method, he said it shouldn't be based on the quickest or easiest or least scary. Instead, it'd be the method that's most likely for them to, say yes to that request, right? So again, just from this principle of the most relational, personal approach, or the more relational or personal the approach is, the better. Suggests that if you have the opportunity to ask them for an appointment in person, that might be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Which then kind of requires you to be pretty familiar with what you want to say, how you want to strike that balance of not saying too much or too little. Being prepared for that when you run into this person in person, as opposed to, hey, I have a question for you, but hold on real quick. I got a script on my phone here. Yeah, would you, so.
Oh my.
So some of these are just helpful suggestions that might be good to kind of glance back over when you get ready to make some appointments, like, some of the wisdom about what times might work the best for certain people, business people, as opposed to other kinds of workers. Some jobs, people might have flexibility to meet you, during their day. So like, as opposed to like back when I worked construction, I had no flexibility. I might be able to meet somebody for lunch, but they better be pretty close to the job site, as opposed to in the last, several years, I was still busy, but I was more flexible with my time, depending on what else is going on. I could do a meeting throughout the week. So I think that's something that would be good just to kind of glance back over when you get ready to make appointments, and kind of thinking through your suggestions for that particular person might be helpful. Just some good wisdom, thinking through where you might ask them to meet. Really helpful to think through beforehand instead of dragging the phone call out, like, starting from scratch on the time, going back and forth. If you have to go back and forth several times to find a time that works best for both of you, that could be annoying. So just helping them with that. Also, we kind of need to take responsibility for, the spot. If we just say, oh, well, where do you want to meet? Now it's up to them to figure out, so on the one hand, we might think that's a good thing because they can meet wherever's comfortable for them. But on the other hand, that might be annoying because we're making them come up with a place instead of us taking responsibility to take the initiative on that. So just some things to be thinking about and mindful of, even prayerful about when we get ready to set some of those appointments. Any thoughts or questions on any of that? So that's some stuff we can come back to. I think the main reason why it's good to look at this chapter now is, again, as some of you have said, I think it can help working on our phone script. Since you guys are all giving me a blank stare, let's see what we could do with the rest of our time. So the next chapter reads about 18 minutes. So that might be cutting it a little close. So let's go ahead and again, use this time really now to finish your phone script and ideally finish your 3-sentence testimony. You got about 15 to 20 minutes. Well, yeah, 20 minutes or so. Then you'll still have a time for a break before discipleship class. Sound good? All right, let's not drag this out. Let's knock out that phone script. Get that testimony going. I emailed you guys a couple of sample phone scripts, so feel free to reference those.
Okay.